What if I told you that the thing causing your stress that you think is money isn't actually money? Welcome back to Clarity in a Cup. So, let me give you my clarity truth today. Most of the business owners that I've worked with over the years haven't been stressed because they didn't have enough money. They've been stressed because they didn't know what was really going on with their money. There's a difference, right? Because money stress usually starts with uncertainty. That's how it begins. You're uncertain about something, so you become stressed about it. And the more uncertain that you are, is the more overwhelmed that you become. So, one of my clients that I worked with, I was coaching her for 3 months. She had money coming in regularly into her business, but she was still so stressed. And so when she filled in my initial questionnaire, her stresses were around money. Everything she spoke about was around money. But that wasn't the real problem. As I started to work with her, I saw that the problem was she had no system in place for managing her money. She didn't know what was coming in and what was going out. You know that thing I always talk about, the cash flow forecast, the systems that you put in place, the habits that you always continuously need to do. She had none of those in place. And so her stress wasn't really about the money. It was more about her systems or lack of systems. You see, uncertainty creates a anxiety for a lot of people who are running their business because they don't know about the future and they feel they're out of control basically to sort certain things out within their business. So then they become uncertain, right? And normally our brains, as I said before, when we're uncertain about things, it will create these stories, right? It will come up with things. So when we haven't looked at our numbers, we start making all these assumptions. I don't have enough. I can't pay that bill. Everything's just up and down. I don't think I can take on new staff. And so uncertainty starts to be the main thing that you start to make assumptions about, right? And usually they are worse than the reality. And so this is where you need to change your story. You need to change that narrative of what you think is happening by putting simple systems in place. And I always encourage people to have at least a monthly financial day, but a 15-minute check on your cash flow can do wonders to get rid of that uncertainty. Systems in place, like when you do have your monthly financial day, where you are then able to look at your reports to see what the numbers are telling you, to see what the data is telling you, because that's going to get rid of the uncertainty, which I said, which leads to anxiety. Most stress comes from not knowing. It's the not knowing that brings on the stress. And that's something you definitely don't want to do. So you want to be in a position where you do know, right? Which is what knowledge does, because knowledge brings calm, right? It doesn't necessarily remove the problem, right? By having the knowledge. So let's say, for example, the situation is that your cash flow for the next month looks good, but for the next 2, 3 months, it looks dire. Now, you having the knowledge of that doesn't necessarily change anything, but what it does do, it allows you to put things into place that can change month 2 and 3, where then you will have enough. That's what it does, right? So it doesn't remove every problem, but it simply tells us where we are. And once you know that, you're able to make decisions instead of worrying. Imagine being able to make decisions about taking an extra client on, for example, to cover cash flow for the next 3 months. Or imagine making a decision about, okay, I'm going to ask my supplier if I can pay them a month later so I can cover this particular bill. You know, just decisions about what you can do, right? Because once you know, once you have that knowledge, it means that you can do it. And knowing just a few key numbers each month can reduce unnecessary stress. It really can. As I said with my client, as I started to work with her, every week I could see her stress being reduced. From the first week when we did some work and we looked at some data, and I got her to think about where she could perhaps make savings so that she could cover something else, straight away I could see the stress starting to go. Not completely, but it started to happen. And as we continued to work together, her stress became less and less, and she became more confident the more that she knew and the more knowledge that she had to be able to change the narrative, change the negative thoughts, change the stories that she had been telling herself. The other thing is, small habits create big confidence. So, where you lack confidence because you don't know, once you get into the habit of knowing, so those 15-minute weekly check-ins or that monthly financial day, all of that is going to build your confidence, and your confidence will increase, because many people think they need to spend hours looking at finances, or they think, well, I have an accountant and that's what my accountant is for. You may not have actually paid for the service where your accountant does all of this for you. Each service requires payment from you. And so the narrative that you tell yourself is, I cannot afford to pay for this. So rather than try to do it yourself, you just don't do it. But that's not what we're going to do here. What we're going to do is not having to spend days on trying to work this out. For some of you, depending on your business, it might not even be a full day. It might only be half a day, just to look at some of your reports, your profit and loss report. What's making me a profit and what's not making me a profit? What bills are coming up within the next 2 to 3 months? Have I got enough sales coming in? Have I raised enough invoices to be able to cover the bills that are coming up? That's the knowledge you need to know. And that's what you need to be looking at. All it takes is 15 minutes a week, as I said, or half a day. For some of you, maybe a whole day, depending on where you are in your business. But getting into the habit of doing this consistently is what's going to build your confidence and help you to reduce that stress. Remember, consistency beats intensity. So it's not about trying to get this all done all at once. It's about small steps and building a pattern, a good habit consistently to be able to do that. So I want you to make a commitment today, and I want you to put it into your diary, a non-negotiable meeting with yourself as the CEO of your business, where you are now going to spend some time. The first time it might be a bit longer, but as you get into the habit of doing it, maybe half a day, where you are going to consistently choose what numbers you're going to look at. I also want you to pick 15 minutes a week, that's all. 15 minutes a week to maybe look at your bank statement or to update the cash flow forecast. And if you don't have one, then you definitely need to join my community, where I teach you and show you how to get one and how to do it simply and easily. So that's what I want you to do. Same day, same time, every week, stroke month, but it's non-negotiable. Non-negotiable, right? What you want to do is to build the habit before you even start to think about building the spreadsheet, because that is really what's going to make the difference for your business. So let me know in the comments, what's the biggest thing that causes you stress in your business? And it might not even be financial, but let's share. Let's see what answers come up. And I will see you on the next video.